Hello everyone, my name is Divya Jain. I am a sport psychologist and we are back with Sport Psych 101 where we discuss one mental training tip every day to make our athletes that much mentally fitter and stronger as they walk into the Olympic Games. Today's topic that we'll be talking about is self-talk. That is what you say to your own self, how you motivate yourself, what kind of instructions you give to yourself. Now just notice what all goes on in your mind, right? If I asked you to just close your eyes and just try not to think of anything for the next 2 minutes, you will realize just how many thoughts actually come into your mind, things that you had no idea you were thinking of, right? Which is what has led a lot of people to think of the mind as like this thought generating machine that's constantly saying something or the other to you. And what happens is a lot of times we aren't aware of what all our mind is generating, and a lot of times we actually start listening to what our mind is saying. And the trick here is to stop listening to what our mind is saying and start talking back and telling our mind what it is that we want to achieve. So a few practical tips on what to do with self-talk, right? The first is just the content of the self-talk. Notice what it is that you're saying to yourself when you think about the games or when you're about to enter a competition. Are you telling yourself, I must win? If you're doing that, you're putting too much pressure on yourselves, because that suggests that if you don't win, something bad is going to happen. So rather than saying, I must win, I should win, you should say, I want to win, because that's where you're just motivated to do what you really want to without that burden of expectations. Also coming from the outcome to the process, right? Don't focus so much on the winning and losing. You focus on wanting to play your best, right? So I want to play my best is what you need to do. The second aspect of self-talk is how you phrase it, right? So self-talk can be positive or self-talk can be negative. So you can say, I don't want to lose, or you can say, I want to win. And essentially you're saying the same thing, but frankly your mind is receiving two different signals, because your minds don't always understand these slight little technicalities. So let's say I ask you not to focus on this pink plant that's behind me. What's going to happen? Surprise, surprise, you are going to be focusing all your attention on that pink plant behind me, even if it hadn't occurred to you so far, right? So our mind simply omitted the don't part. So if you want to train yourself technically, you're going into a competition and you say, don't lean forward, your mind is likely going to omit the don't. The lean forward bit is going to stay in my mind, and the chances of my actually leaning forward and making the mistake that I wanted to avoid actually increase. So rather than phrasing things in the negative, phrase them in the positive, right? So rather than don't lean forward, say step back, be steady. And the third aspect of self-talk is to keep it really, really simple. No big words. We don't want big lectures. Our mind during the competition doesn't need to process all of that, right? Like I had mentioned before, we want to keep you as much out of your head as possible rather than overthinking. So rather than full sentences, rather than full lines, paragraphs, all you need to do is have a cue word. One word that you say to yourself that's a reminder to you for what it is that you want to achieve, right? So someone might say steady, someone might say go, sometimes someone might say ready, someone might say calm, someone might say strong, right? So any of these words is something that's good enough, because in the years that you've been training, you have formed an association between this word and the action that you have to follow. So these are cue words used very popularly in the closed skills, which is, let's say if you have to shoot, if you're playing golf, if you're doing archery, if you're about to serve a tennis ball, these are spaces where these cue words can help you bring in that automaticity, right? So on that note, I hope that you start to use this talk rather than listening to your mind. I hope you start talking back to your mind. I hope you start telling your mind what to do. Keep it simple, keep it positive, and keep it motivated.